levels.
There's a number of reasons why we are experiencing this almost unprecedented prosperity. Among them are lack of regulation,
recklessness,
free trade.
This was liberal Democrat political correctness that created this disaster of the bad mortgages.
President Bush is making a last push to deregulate.
Excessive regulation.
Greed.
An infectious greed seemed to grip much of our business community.
Don't run. Now don't talk fast. Slow down. Don't you know it's against the rules to leave the school grounds without permission? Rules. All the time rules. I'm sick of them.
Excuse me for interrupting, boys and girls, but maybe you would like to find out just what it would be like if there were no rules.
But how could we do that?
By going someplace where there are no rules.
The inherent paradox of an economy fueled by greed is that the pursuit of our individual self-interest is supposed to benefit the wider society as an unintended consequence. Yet even Adam Smith understood that this only worked when everyone plays by the rules of the game, and those rules apply equally to everyone. In a free market, fair competition would ensure a level playing field. Do we really have a free market? Or is the game rigged from the start?
Think of three professions. You're a baseball player. You slide into home plate and you give the umpire $1,000 before he makes a call. What would you call that? A bribe, right? Or say you're a lawyer. You made your summation before the court and the jury, and right before the judge renders his verdict, you give him $1,000. What is that called? A bribe, as Moyer says. But if you're a politician, you kind of sidle up to somebody in a skybox at an NFL game and they give you $1,000. What do you call that? Campaign contribution. And that is the problem. What is needed is to take money out of the political process, break the connection between the lobbyist and the legislator.
It's an interesting concept on certain levels.
There's a failure to have fully embraced the checks and balances that were necessary in a system where markets are relatively amoral, not immoral, but amoral. And when those situations exist, I think you need to put in legitimate checks and balances.
John Kenneth Galbraith of Harvard says that in periods of great growth and prosperity and everybody's doing well, along with that growth, what he calls bezel grows. That's from embezzlement. His coinage. And then things reach a certain point and we have a crisis and the bezel starts going back down.
The people who run America's corporations, the upper-level management, like our politicians, use their positions of privilege to reward themselves. Politicians accomplish this by crafting legislation that provides contributors with real financial benefits and unfair competitive advantages in the so-called free market. In turn, the ultimate beneficiaries of their legislation are the politicians themselves. They receive their campaign funding from the same interest they just provided benefits to at the public's expense.
AP poll shows 8 in 10 Americans worry the financial crisis will hit them directly. Despite that, 45% are opposed to the government bailout.
This is not a bailout for Wall Street. It's a bailout for a country.
For my part, I came to the Senate floor and put down a firm marker. If Congress was going to help companies that got us into this mess, then executives at those companies would play by our rules.
The tone that brought us to this vote this afternoon gets set by the leadership. And if that tone is working in the right direction, a lot of good things can happen.
And that is that we're going to fundamentally change the focus of the economic policy. We're going to focus on the middle class, because it's when the middle class is growing, the economy grows and everybody does well, not just focus on the wealthy.
One of the messages that I have to Congress is get this done. Democrats, Republicans, step up to the plate, get it done.
I put it on hold last week to fight for a rescue plan that puts you and your economic security and your family and working Americans first.
Is this the United States Congress or the board of directors of Goldman Sachs?
Now, what's wrong? What's wrong? Is it lobbying? Look, lobbyists are good people, are decent people.
But it's also important for the people to know that my friend is raising money from people who have business in front of his committee. Nothing illegal about that.
Some people who are involved in the lobbying profession do it because they are interested in that side of the equation. They're interested in government, they're interested in Congress, they're interested in public service.
So lobbyists equal public servants?
But I've committed not to have any corporate lobbyists working in my White House when on the first day that I'm president. Will you make the same commitment?
Well, you know, John, I will make the commitment to have people in the White House who are honest and trustworthy and put the interests of the United States first. But
Is that a no?
You know what? I don't know because I'm not in favor of corporate lobbyists, but you keep drawing these artificial distinctions. You take money from people who employ lobbyists, who are married to lobbyists, who are the children of lobbyists. And, you know, at some point, this gets really hard to take.
And then everybody came to the same conclusion the Dutch did in the 1600s, that the price of tulips is never going to come down.
New home sales fell more than 5% just last month. That's the worst showing since 1991, when we were going through another painful housing downturn.
This is not the first time this kind of thing has happened.
We've been here before, at this precipice, looking into the abyss of uncertainty.
We heard the same argument with Fannie Mae bailout and Freddie Mac. We've heard it in the discussion about Bear Stearns and AIG. It's the same old story. We're just going further down the road. We're getting deeper and deeper. The cliff is getting steeper and steeper.
In the movie Groundhog Day, Bill Murray finds himself continually repeating the same routine. We need to learn from Bill and Phil's adventure. We should not legislate in a hasty manner and place ourselves in an infinite loop.
The real infinite loop we find ourselves entangled in is watching our representatives craft legislation to benefit their campaign contributors, while they gaze into the camera and tell us that they are looking out for our best interests.
And we've got to get this bill done for the American people. The American people want us to get it done. They believe it needs to be done, and we're working very hard to do that.
With a 14% congressional approval rating, we have to wonder why we send 97% of them back to Washington after each election. A majority of Americans, along with 231 economists, vehemently oppose the original bailout proposal.
And I heard the lady say it again on your show just now, that us common Americans don't get it. I am so tired. I heard Feinstein say that last night. I heard your guest say it just now. I heard your two guests in the last couple of days saying the same thing, that we just don't understand.
Hello, my name is Justin Morrison, and I'm calling from Bloomington, Indiana, and I oppose this bill.
Why would Congress force taxpayers to bear the losses of these private corporations weeks before an election when their constituents had made their overwhelming opposition known?
The plan we have before us today, the rescue plan, is vastly different from the original one sent to us by the administration. Today it's about protecting Main Street, not Wall Street.
They're going to pay out $18 billion in bonuses.
It's about protecting the American taxpayer, not CEO salaries.
They paid an average of $2.6 million to every executive at the first 116 banks that got taxpayer money under TARP.
We have included in here important oversight, transparency, accountability provisions to protect the American people.
Merrill Lynch is unbelievable. They saved $3 to $4 billion from the pot of money that was going to Bank of America. The sale is going to close the first week in January. They always gave bonuses in January. You know what these sneaky guys did? They decided to give their bonuses in December, before the Bank of America took over. Paid out $3 to $4 billion in bonuses in December, and that quarter, Merrill Lynch lost $21 billion.
So to help the American people, I am now supporting today's financial package.
This is a good deal for the taxpayer.
And if we vote here today for this bill, it is truly the end of the Reagan era. It's the end of the Reagan era because, in fact, under Ronald Reagan's time, we dealt with similar problems, a huge financial problem, and we worked our way out of it without unnecessarily buying assets. We closed institutions, but we also saved institutions.